Welcome to a football show, Friday edition, joint practice, preseason edition. Football is actually here, sort of. A pseudo version of the game will take place 6:30 p.m. Central Time against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Tennessee Titans and Cam Ward in the offense will debut. I am Braden Gall. That is Nick Suss of the Tennessean. We, of course, are brought to you by Sinkers Beverages and Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. Nick, good morning, sir. How are you?
I am a little bit groggy, but we're here. We are here. And if I sound froggy, you're making that up. That's not real.
Is that because you were at Mons Venus last night till all hours of the night?
No, I did what I do probably like 19 times a year and fell asleep rewatching Austin Powers and Goldmember.
Of course.
My favorite movie of the 21st century.
19 times a year. That's a very specific number.
I would guess that it is the movie I have seen either the most or second most number of times.
All right.
And it was playing on the E! Network, so I might as well watch it again.
Hotel television has gotten so bad because you don't have any of your own algos on any of your streaming apps anymore. You got to pull the iPad out if you want to watch something that's yours, Otherwise, you're just stuck channel surfing, which is absurd. It's an absurd thing to do. I can't believe we lived in a world where we just channel surf at night.
To use the parlance of the time, I raw dogged this movie. I put my phone in the other room. I put the remote in the other room. I watched the commercials. I just sat there staring at the TV for 2 hours.
How Elon of you.
It was glorious.
So much so that you fell asleep. If you want to jump into the comments section, Nick was at practice yesterday. Team Ramrod says Tom Cruise in Goldmember is peak.
Spectacular.
Good morning, lads, from Eddie. I am so I hate doing shows where I didn't get to watch practice. Like, I hate it because I feel like I just don't have any of the nuance and the subtlety and the observations that all you folks get when you're down there at practice. We've been very spoiled to have all the joint practices mostly in Nashville the last 10 years since I started covering the team. So Nick was there, of course, along with a few other media members, and we will discuss what you saw. Then we'll discuss what it means for the game on Saturday. I think the most important thing is sort of like how to watch the game.
Yeah.
And what does it mean? When we see something, what does that mean? And so we'll get into that a little bit later on as well. So lots of good stuff to do on the show today. I was reading the Tennessean, and I was reading Nick Suss about sort of what Cam Ward accomplished in practice. So we'll start there, which is what exactly did you see from him? It seemed like, from what I could tell, this was not a take a bunch of deep shots. This was sort of, and in your words, sort of like Cam Ward, the professional, versus Cam Ward, the backyard college quarterback.
Yeah.
And we saw what Brian Callahan wants out of his player, at least early. Afternoon, fellas. Yes, I believe Jake is in the UK, I believe, right, Jake? So It is afternoon over there. Come on, you Gunners. So, Nick, is that fair? Is that a fair assessment? I read it from your pen as it was.
It's one of those interesting things where the only takeaway I had big picture from Cam is that he looked like he belonged. I wrote this in my newsletter that should be coming out some point this morning if you guys subscribe to that. The big picture takeaway is there is no doubt in my mind that Cam Ward is one of the 32 best quarterbacks in the world right now. Now, do you want him to be better than that? Eventually, yes. But if the qualifier right now is he ready to play against NFL defenses? From what I saw yesterday, the answer is yes. The Titans did a good job of insulating him. The pressure wasn't much of an issue because of how much they were dinking and dunking, a lot of slants, a lot of timing routes, which is good that he was able to get the ball out and he was able to identify where the open man was. There weren't a lot of tipped and batted passes like we'd seen at practice. There weren't a lot of safeties undercutting him like we'd seen at Titans practice. He was just handling the job well. He made maybe one or two highlight throws. He had one to Gunnar Helm up the seam that was a gorgeous throw, and he had one in the back of the end zone to Chim DK that was a really, really good throw. But other than that, it was find the open man, get the ball out, live to run another play. And look, if there are only 24, 25 guys a year who can do that confidently and you have one of them, your franchise is at the very least set up to maybe compete every week. Now we can talk about overall roster dynamics, and we've done a lot of that over the last 8 months leading into this season. But the qualifier is Cam looks like he is ready to play in the National Football League.
After last night, or before last night, do the Colts have one of them?
Probably not, but I don't want to judge too hard. Look, if you have the 24th best quarterback in the NFL, you could theoretically make the playoffs. I'm not getting ahead of myself. I'm not saying the Titans are going to make the playoffs.
But not the 26th.
That might be pushing it. That might but like, 24th is what? 2/3 of the NFL?
Yeah.
Or 3/4?
No, 3/4, yeah.
3/4 of the NFL.
Math is easy.
That's probably a fair way to describe it, right? 3/4 of starting quarterbacks in the NFL could theoretically take their team to the postseason. Yeah. And that's Cam seems to be in the upper 75%, which is
that's fair.
That's, as a guy who has now practiced one time against an opposing defense, that's not bad.
What about play on Saturday? Do you expect in terms of playing? Let's get the playing time question out of the way. It doesn't seem like we know exactly if Cam Ward is going to have more than a series, maybe a second one. I imagine is a second series sort of like the optimistic way to look at playing time for a player specifically for Cam Ward?
Based on the way they handled it last year and just the way that Callahan seems to view this stuff, I think it has more to do with what is achieved on the series than it does with the number of series in general. If you get to see a third down operation, if you get to see a red zone, if you get to see a hurry up, if you get to see a backed up, if you get to see short yardage, like if every situation is checked off in one series, you probably don't give them a second series.
Yeah.
But if it's a 3 and out, you probably go out a second time and let the operation continue a little bit longer. It's more about ingratiating the players into the schematics than it is about if you get X amount of yards or X number of plays, you're done.
And the routine of it all, right? Like
for sure.
Here's the plan of what we do on game day. Here's how this works. Here's the preparation. Here's the getting to the stadium. Here's pre-snap. Here's post-snap. Like, how it all works in the NFL is very different than how it works in college football. And by the way, for those listening on the podcast, Nick is doing work, in fact, in his hotel room. He's actually doing construction while hosting a podcast and sick at the same time. It's an impressive performance by you. To be honest with you. If
we want to play the just strange travel stories game at the end of this podcast, okay. I've got 3 or 4 one sentence. Yeah, this has been a weird trip situations.
Oh, already? Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Morning, my good brother, says Coach Wills. Good to have you guys all in. Please share the show, by the way. Make sure you hit subscribe on YouTube. Most of you guys come to us via YouTube, so share the product, subscribe, notifications turned on, all that great stuff. As we are a little off today, being a Friday with joint practices on Thursday and the game coming up on Saturday evening. Sinkers Beverages, speaking of Saturday evening, Sinkers Beverages 40th anniversary birthday party coming up tomorrow night. We will try to, I believe, we will have the game on. So if you want to come by and hang out at Basement East, tickets are available, $10, and all the money goes to charity to celebrate Sinkers Beverages. It's going to be a great time. Tomato Fest all night tonight and tomorrow. Going to be a lot of fun. I got my kids in the parade. We're going to have a big time. Bloody Marys for everybody. It's going to be fun. And then at 5:30, we're going to walk on down to Basement East and check out the Sinkers Beverages party that's taking place. You'll have booze and food and music and all kinds of giveaways, and just celebrate a good local partner that has served the community for 4 decades in East Nashville. Shotgun Willie's Barbecue as well. Always a great partner. Best brisket in the city. Phenomenal side items made from scratch. Great desserts. And, of course, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Wednesday through Sunday. You can get all of Pitmaster Bill's Shotgun Willie, his delicious meats. All right. So I guess I do. I wasn't going to talk Anthony Richardson right away, but I do want to just ask you about this because I just brought it up and now it's top of mind. So I might as well ask you about this. Like, I cannot remember a quarterback who has more, like the ratio of talent to drama. Like, it's just, and I don't mean drama in like stuff that he's choosing to do, but some of it is. But like, this guy cannot play a single series without there being some major story happening to him. He misses a blitz. He gets destroyed if you miss the play on, was it Thursday night. And just, he gets blindsided because he totally misses the blitz pickup. And so I guess he's got a hand problem and could be out. Entered Daniel Jones. Chaos in Indianapolis, I'm sure, for Titans fans. A very, very disappointing for Titans fans.
I think I said this back in like February or March, and I don't know how popular of an opinion this was, but I do think the Colts are a team that has major, oh no, this could be an absolute disaster written on them.
Yeah.
Like this has been a roster that has been, I'm a weird believer in the idea that if you are average at every position, you could go 13-3 or you could go 3-13. Like being average everywhere doesn't necessarily mean you're average. And the Colts are a roster that has kind of been stuck on, they're pretty good at most things, but obviously they're not pretty good at quarterback right now. And so, look, I'm sure there are a lot of Titans fans who are absolutely rooting for the absolute downfall of the Indianapolis Colts. I don't know if it's going to happen, but they do have, oh yeah, what are they going to win the one-on-one matchups at kind of written on them.
I saw so there's a lot of Indiana people in my neighborhood. I don't know if there's a lot of Indiana people in your neighborhood, but a lot of like IU grads, Purdue grads, almost all of whom are Colts fans. And I was walking, I had after I saw a really funny pilot sitcom over the weekend, I went and had a couple beers with some dads on my street at one of the local establishments here. And we were kind of just chatting on the walk home about how bad the Colts could be. Big Colts fans, and how bad they could be. And they're like, do we want Manning? We got to get Manning back. And then we need to go trade for who? And I'm like, Marvin Harrison Jr. And they're like, yes, that's the plan, is Arch Manning and Marvin Harrison Jr. in Indianapolis. They don't even, Daniel Jones, Anthony Richardson are not parts of their consideration at this point, which is, I'm starting to agree with you that there is a implosion factor that is heavy with this particular Colts team.
Yeah, if you look at the three teams in this division that are considered to be bad, Jacksonville strangely is the team that feels the most, oh yeah, they could figure it out right now, because
the roster,
because they have top end talent that, like, I don't want to overemphasize the fact that if you can win one matchup, you can win a lot of games in the NFL, but like, let's be very real about this. In a league where most teams are roughly equivalent talent-wise, top to bottom, having one or two guys that are absolutely better than everybody else is a pretty major difference maker.
Yeah.
And I don't know if the Titans have that, and I don't know if the Colts have that, but the Jaguars theoretically might.
I agree. By the way, Good Morning Football is saying he's day-to-day with the pinky, so I don't know if that's a thing. Eddie says Arch won't even be available for 2 years. Look, I don't know I know the grandfather, I know Archie's come out and said, oh, he's going back to Texas. Like, I wouldn't be surprised literally at anything with Arch Manning. I would say prepare for everything. Prepare for him to win the Heisman Trophy and be the number one pick for the Saints, which if the Saints have the number one pick, he will be coming out. I can almost guarantee it. If it's the Colts, I could see him coming out as well. I think they have some options at what they want to do based on who's picking at the top of the draft.
The other funny part, I was talking about this with a friend last night. Like, let's say that the comp on Arch is he ends up being a slightly more athletic version of Eli, who doesn't end up having the like top end cerebral traits that Peyton and Eli had. You know who that is? That's Daniel Jones. Like a more athletic version who doesn't have the top end traits.
Well, but are you hang on? Are you saying top end mental traits? Like I would not put Daniel Jones as like one notch behind Peyton Manning mentally.
I am just saying that the athletic profile when I watch Arch play is not all that dissimilar from what Daniel Jones looked like coming out of college. That is not to say that Arch will not be better when he actually starts playing. I've seen him play 4 games or whatever.
Sure.
But like, we all have to talk about the gradient here of what a more athletic Manning looks like. And if he has all of the Manning traits, he comes out, he goes number 1, he's going to be a superstar immediately. But
I don't think, like all the best quarterbacks in the NFL don't have Peyton Manning level of processing.
Agreed.
Aside from like 2, maybe 3.
Agreed.
And so to me, I feel like, and I'm not saying that you're doing this, but there's a vast gap of mental processing between Peyton Manning and Daniel Jones. And so there's, like, I would say Jordan Love is fitting that profile. Like, he's a little bit more athletic than Eli and doesn't have the mental processing of the Mannings. Like, there's a lot of quarterbacks that fit into that mold that are very good and very successful.
Sure.
Again,
not,
either way.
I truly do. If you made me bet right now, I would bet on Arch being the top quarterback pick next year. Like I'm not out on Arch Manning by any stretch.
Oh, right. He will be the number one quarterback whenever he comes out, and he'll be the number one pick whenever he comes out. Although I think there's a better chance. The DJ Lagway class, which is 2 years from now. Now we're way down this rabbit hole. We got a preseason game to talk about, but I think the Lagway is going to be more of an interesting 1-2. I think they would go 1-2. I think Arch and Lagway would go 1-2 in 2 years. I don't know if there's another player, whether it's Sellers or Nussmeier or Aller. I think Cade Klubnik might actually be up there as well. I don't know if it's a 1-2 thing. It feels more like a 5 taken in the top 15 kind of thing. So anyway, we'll see. Titans will have an opportunity to take another quarterback if they want one. I'll just roll that grenade in there. All right, so I want to ask you about the rookies, because it feels like the rookies, before we get to the game itself, this is all going to lead into the games. It feels like the rookies on offense, we started with a lot of conversation around Oladejo and Winston. Those were sort of the noticeable rookies that developed quickly. Yes, for Fernando Mendoza. Cal transferring to Indiana keep an eye on him. Okay. It felt like when we first started practice, the first week and a half, we were talking a lot about Kevin Winston and a lot about Oladejo, and I still think they're very good players. Winston did not practice, by the way, neither did T'Vondre Sweat and a few other players. Hance is still banged up. But it feels like we've had some movement on the rookies on offense in the last week and a half or so. Gunnar Helm, of course, tight end 1. I don't think that's a surprise. I think Ayumanner had his best day of practice on
tight end 2. Right?
Well, I think he could be tight end 1.
He's tight end 2.
But tight end 2. Well, tight end 1 at what he does. Chig's tight end 1 at what he does, and Odakoyo could be tight end 1 at what he does. So we'll see what that means.
He's tight end 2.
It just seems like these guys are starting to show a little bit more, flash a little bit more, pop into situations that maybe they weren't in terms of the first couple of weeks. Ayumanner, I think, is really developing into a nice, dependable number 4 receiver. DK had one of his best days at practice on Saturday, and then again or Wednesday, and then in this week. Helm has made, as you already alluded to, Helm had a really big seam route, which is where he does a lot of damage in this offense. And so Mullings has not really been a factor, but I'm just curious where you are with, and I'm going to include Prochet and Oliver in this conversation because, one's a UDFA and the other one's a journeyman who's trying to make the roster. It feels like those guys have made some progress in the last 8 to 10 days.
Yeah, it's tough to say. I was having this conversation with some other people yesterday about the receiving core specifically and how you're going to handle who's up on game days, especially if you keep Prochet or Restrepo or Jaquan Jackson around as your return specialist. It's going to be a tricky situation because everybody's kind of played their way into deserving a role on game days. Now, I am still pretty confident that the 3 veterans are your top 3 options.
Agree.
I don't know if that will remain the case through October, November, or I do think it is possible that Ayumanner can play his way into that number 2 or number 3 role eventually. Agreed. He still needs to polish things up. He
and Jefferson have a little bit of redundancy in their skill set, right?
Yeah, I think that's fair to say, and I still think that Van Jefferson has a timing and a savvy and a confidence with Cam Ward.
He's a professional.
That matters. And I do think that you're going to want to surround Cam Ward with as much experience as possible early in his career. I do think that of the rookies on offense, Cam Ward notwithstanding, we're talking the day 3 rookies and the UDFAs, Ayumanner does seem to be the one who is the most ready to make plays early. I think Helm has been pretty up and down. When he's good, he's really, really good. And then he can disappear for 2 or 3 days of practice.
Yeah.
And that's not surprising. He's a rookie 4th round pick. He's got a lot of developing to do. So that's why I'm not super gung-ho on putting him in as the number 1 tight end over Chig just yet. Chig has looked pretty solid, as he always does during camp. I don't know if he's a long-term, going to get the extension, 10-year starter type guy, but he's clearly the best tight end option right now. And then DK and Restrepo, even, you can throw these guys in of, I always see them, they flash. Restrepo is going to make 1 or 2 impressive catches every practice. Now, it's usually from Brandon Allen or Tim Boyle. It's very seldom from Cam Ward, but he's going to make 1 or 2 impressive catches. He made one yesterday against Tampa in a 2-minute drill where he was up against the sideline and made a nice catch. And on the play before, he actually made a nice pass breakup to save his own offense from a little bit of a lofted ball. And then DK continues to.
What do you make of it? Sorry to interrupt, but Coach Will says this is weird but I genuinely have a lot of faith in these rookies, and I don't know why. I think that's fair.
Yeah, I would say that keep an eye out for a story that I'm going to write here in the next 2 or 3 weeks about fan hope and delusion, because I think that we'll talk much more about this as we get closer to the season, about confidence in the Tennessee Titans and whether or not it's warranted. It's really possible the Titans had a really good draft. It's possible the Titans had a stinky draft. We don't know yet. We really don't know yet. I can tell you who looks good in practice. I can tell you who's looking less good in practice. The overall way to describe it is this rookie class doesn't have anybody who I look at and say, oh, that was a mistake. And that's, again, a low bar to clear. But so far, it does not seem like anybody has gigantic bust written all over them. Yeah. They all look like they can develop into something productive.
Yeah, and that's all you can ask for right now. So I didn't mean to interrupt, but you were about to talk DK there. So,
yeah, he's another one that flashes. Like, he is not consistently making the catches from Cam that Ridley is, or Jefferson is, or Lockett is. Again, he is lower on the totem pole by virtue of the other guys have much more savvy and experience running routes in the NFL. But when he makes plays, you see why the Titans were so gung-ho about him. You see why they liked his talent enough to pick him 40 or 50 picks before Io Manor. They like him. He's a guy who can control his body well and adjust in midair. He's a guy with really good speed traits. He's a guy who theoretically could fill in as the return man. That'll be something worth watching here.
He's a very
in the preseason games.
He's a very fluid catcher and route runner, just very fluid. And the other thing, this is totally random, he comes off very, very impressive in the Netflix documentary, Any Given Saturday, because he's featured with Graham Mertz around the Florida team. And because they had a relationship in Wisconsin, of course, they both transferred to Florida. But he comes off as a pretty polished, adult, mature, smart, savvy, thoughtful dude, which I think we've all learned here at camp and talking to him. So I just want to point that out as well. Off the field, he comes off as a pretty smart dude.
Yeah, I would agree. And so, yeah, if you ask why do you have faith in these rookies, it's because usually this time of year, we're sitting here talking about a rookie, not to pile on Traylon, but like talking about Traylon's asthma instead of talking about Traylon making big plays, like
killing animals with his knife and bare hands.
Yeah, there has not been much talk about disqualification. Yeah. Whereas in the past we have spent a little bit more time talking about like, well, Skoronski's learning a new position. Oh, well, Latham's learning a new position. Like, these are guys just drafted to do what they do.
So any more young pass catchers? I think you got all of them there because you just mentioned Skoronski, and I want to say Skoronski, I was not watching the one-on-ones on Wednesday. I was watching on offense, like passing the football in the red zone. I think you were down there. It was basically me and Zach Lyons watching the one-on-ones with the offensive line, and Peter Skoronski won every single rep. And I don't know, you've watched some of those too. Like Peter Skoronski looks like he is one of the best players on this football team as of today. And I know that Kalijah Cansey got Dan Moore yesterday pretty badly. So I wanted to ask about the offensive line. I think Latham and Skoronski have looked very, very good. Zeitler is going up against Simmons, so good luck, my guy. And Dan Moore is still the left tackle is still the giant question in terms of how good it's going to be. So what'd you see? I know Vita Vea didn't really practice much yesterday, if at all. So what do you make of the offensive line's performance in one-on-ones and in team against another team, another jersey?
Not to start this question off by immediately being defensive, but I have seen some chatter about how the coverage of the things the Titans do super well was not super good yesterday. Joint practices are really difficult to cover because there's a lot of different things happening on a lot of different fields.
You've got to pick which one you're going to watch.
Yeah. Most of my attention was devoted toward Cam Ward and the Titans passing offense. And a lot of the Bucs writers devoted their attention toward Baker Mayfield and the Bucs passing offense. Unfortunately, that means if there is something going on the third field, where it's like Titans O-line versus Bucs D-line or Bucs O-line versus Titans D-line, it is much harder for people who are a one-man band like I was yesterday to divide and conquer. So I saw a
Bucs writer basically tweeting like, "Man, Dan Moore just got destroyed by Cansey," who, by the way, is a very good player. I just want to throw that out there. But in team though, right? Were you watching the offense in team?
I for sure was. So all of this was to say I did not get to watch the one-on-ones with Skoronski versus Cansey or whatever it ended up being. I've watched a lot of it at Titans practice. I am going to continue to watch a lot of it next week in Atlanta when there are actually 2 practices, and you can say, I'm going to watch the defense one day, the offense the next day, and Gentry will be there with me, so Tennessee and we'll get to divide and conquer. But all of that is to say, when I was watching the team periods, the main thing that stuck out as I was thinking about it after the fact was, man, there was no point where I thought, oh yeah, it's the offensive line. Like, we were at the joints last year against Seattle. Every single moment of every single practice was, oh, imagine what would happen if this O-line could block. Oh, this O-line needs to block.
No,
this is a problem. Yeah. That never crossed my mind. Partially because Cam was dinking and dunking and the offense was set up in such a way that you were throwing these timing routes and you were getting ahead of the blitz and all that stuff.
Well, how do you think it's going to work in a real game? That they're going to have to do that.
Yeah.
Right.
But also, that's good. That's good. If Tampa Bay, which over the 6 years that Todd Bowles has been in Tampa, they have ranked in the top 10 in blitz rate every year. They have blitzed on more than 33% of their past defensive plays 5 of the last 6 years. They blitz a lot. And the fact that
we blitz all night. Continue. Sorry, I had to get that out.
And the fact that there was never a point during this practice where I thought to myself, yeah, Titans offensive line got beat there. That's all you need to hear.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Just fundamentally, year-over-year comparison. Last year against Seattle, the entire focus was, oh, these guys can't block anybody.
Yep. And
now, I would agree with you. Skoronski, if he's not the best player on this team, he's the second best player on this team. He looks really, really good.
He's been on it, man.
Latham has struggled a little bit with speed off the edge every once in a while in the one-on-ones, but in team drills, he has looked pretty darn consistent play after play. We need to see what Cushenberry looks like when he gets back.
Yeah.
Dan Moore, look, maybe he's the 16th best left tackle in the NFL. Maybe he's the 20th best left tackle in the NFL. But if you're replacing a guy who was 32nd,
right.
That's still an improvement. And so I think the offensive line will be better. And if that's the case, good. Good.
There is a chance that all 5 positions are improved. That right tackle is going to be better because it's Latham. Duh. That Dan Moore is better. Maybe. I mean, I don't know. Latham last year probably wasn't 32, but
I'm just saying the tackle you're missing.
Whoever. Right. Exactly. Cushenberry being fully healthy for the whole season, which we don't know yet, but if he plays the last 15 games or 14 games and misses the first 4 or so, and is the opposite inverted of last year, they should be better. Zeitler's should be better, and Skoronski looks better. So there's a chance that all 5 positions are better. Now that was the whole point. But again, hand firmly on burner. I'm not doing that one until I see it in a real game. But good observation there. Sinkers Beverages, Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. Please support good local businesses that support these products, that keep them free for all of you guys out there. We get to keep doing this because we have great sponsors and great local people that care about the Titans and care about all of you. And so make sure you're supporting Sinkers Beverages. You can search Uber Eats and have the booze delivered directly to your house. So if you're really, really upset with Tim Boyle's performance in the third quarter on Saturday night, don't get in your car after a few beers. Obviously, that would be stupid. Have the beers delivered directly to your house or whatever your drink of choice is. So search Uber Eats for Sinkers Beverages and have that booze delivered directly to your house, or just come on out and hang out with us at the birthday party at 5:30 at Basement East on Saturday evening. Shotgun Willie's Barbecue, mechanical bull, only barbecue joint in the city that has a mechanical bull. Obviously, that means the brisket is great. You can't put a mechanical bull in your restaurant and be bad at cooking meat. Like you can't do that. You have to be able to do. They go hand in hand. So Shotgun Willie's Barbecue, make sure you check them out. Best brisket in the city. Less than 10 minutes from Nissan Stadium. How do we watch the game? By the way, Tim Boyle did not play a lot, it sounds like, yesterday in a lot of the situations. He threw the ball a lot less than Brandon Allen did. I'm interested to see what the split is because I assume Brandon Allen is significantly ahead of Tim Boyle.
Yeah, I can tell you the dynamics at play during practice have a lot to do with there is simply not time to run more than 4 series per team period. And if that means offense 1s, defense 1s, offense 2s, defense 2s, make your own conclusions about who's on the second team and who's on the third team. The Titans' unofficial depth chart will also allow you to make conclusions about who's on the second team and who's on the third team.
Love a good unofficial depth chart. You guys aren't allowed to talk about it, but here's the unofficial depth chart.
Yeah. So, again, make your own conclusions about whether or not Tim Boyle had a lot of reps yesterday. But I will say Cam Ward and Brandon Allen had their fair share of reps yesterday.
Yeah, like 30 passes each. Tim Boyle had like 7.
Yeah.
Something like that. According to Wyatt, I think that was according to Wyatt's piece. So
Wyatt, I will give immense credit for being able to keep track of more at once. That man's notepads are impressive. But yeah, how do we watch this game? Look, guys, do not watch just the Cam Ward drives and turn it off if you want to actually know what's going on with the Titans. If you want to know what's going on with Cam Ward, watch the Cam Ward drives and turn it off. Or go to Tennessean.com, as we will cover the heck out of Cam Ward tomorrow. But
as you should.
We're going to write a lot about Cam Ward. But I think that what you are going to want to watch for when you watch this game, first off, if you want to seem really smart in your hypothetical pools of like, hey, who's going to make the roster? Let's do a draft with my friends. Watch who's playing gunner on special teams. Watch who's the personal protector on punt team. Watch who the like guys running upfield and making tackles in the first half are. Those are people who the team trusts. And that doesn't necessarily mean that other players can't win trust. But if you want a better window into who the Titans think they are, spend less time fixating on the receiver who catches a pass in the fourth quarter or the DB who has 2 second-half pass breakups or whatever it is, and look at who is earning those significant special teams reps in the first half. Look at the rotation at offensive and defensive line after the starters come out.
Yep.
Look at these places. Those are going to give you really good indications as to who the Titans think are their guys.
It's all about the second string.
Yeah.
It's all about the second string, and see what's going on there. Team Ramrod says the center is going to be the worst O-line on the team. Corey Levin, of course, is right now that guy who, by the way, is already second team, technically, in theory. So I agree. It's watch the special team. Now, I know Paul was big on this last year, and he's kind of been big on it all summer, and maybe it's worth asking, which is, did the team last year under the previous general manager prioritize the wrong things around the bottom, let's say 8 or 10 spots on the roster? Special teams, obviously a total disaster in every way, shape, and form last year. And so did they prioritize, maybe guys who could help out in a third string role on an offense or a defense rather than, hey, maybe this person isn't as good at playing the position he plays, but he's much better at these other things. And so I'm curious where you're at on, do you think there's a different strategy around what they're prioritizing in their last 5 to 8 roster spots being really, really high-level special teamers, or is it, hey, I need to have a fourth tight end who can actually come in and play tight end better? Maybe he's not a great special teamer. Does that make sense?
So I've been beating the drum about this for a while too. So I agree that they probably made some strange bottom roster decisions to start off last season. I will say I think they're going to handle it different this year with 2 pretty important asterisks. Asterisks. 2 pretty important asterisks here. Number 1, does L'Jarius Sneed start off the season active? And number 2, does Lloyd Cushenberry start off the season active? Those 2 things are going to tell us way more than we want to admit about what this team needs to do roster dynamic, because if you start these guys off active but not IR, if you just have a roster spot for a guy who is not fully healthy, like you did last year with DeAndre Hopkins, you're going to need to keep extra players at those positions who are ready to contribute on day one. And so if that means keeping a 10th offensive lineman and a 7th cornerback or something like that, that will play into you have to keep guys who can contribute at actual offensive and defensive positions. If these guys can start off the year on IR, or if they can start off the year healthy with no limitations, and you're able to just add 4 or 5 special teams contributors bottom of the roster, that changes it. And I think they will do that this year. I think they have learned their lesson from last year, but we do have to acknowledge the offense and defense still matter more. So
and it's 4 games, right? If you start on IR, you have to be 4 games on. That I think that would be a pretty bad sign for Snead. I think Cushenberry is sort of around the time you work through an Achilles. That one's more complicated. It's more about the human body and what he's been doing or whatever. But Snead, I think everyone, and maybe even including him, I think everyone expected him to be ready to go for the start of the season. And so that one's a little bit more concerning to me, I feel like.
And let's also acknowledge the timeline has always been, let's see if they're ready for Atlanta. I don't know if they're going to be super duper involved next week, but I would be a little bit surprised if one, if not both of them, were at least ready to a point where they can do individual next week, just to kind of get them in the wrap up.
Which means there's no way they're missing 4 games, right?
It's
more the Hopkins situation, like you're saying. Yeah.
Cushenberry in particular, I'd be really, really surprised if he missed 4 games. Snead, as we have said over and over again, remains my company line. I will tell you about Snead when I see Snead.
We did. We saw him in person at Nissan Stadium. We all saw him signing autographs. And in fact, the media was more interested in seeing Snead than all the people asking for his autograph.
And also, he was there yesterday. He did travel with the team to Tampa.
All right. So which means he's on the long 10-day trip.
Yeah, he's here. And Cushenberry is here. Cushenberry, a little just fun slice of life. Yesterday, there are 3 fields here at Tampa, and we were watching team on field 1, and the Titans were going to do post-practice media on field 3. So a couple media members and I were just casually walking across field 2 and 3 to get over to where we were going to do media. And we look to our left, and all of the Titans are about to do wind sprints across the field that we are walking across. So a bunch of media members had to get on our horse and kind of like jog out of the way so we didn't impede their wind sprints. And one of the people who was jogging along with us to get out of the way was Lloyd Cushenberry. So he is capable.
He can jog. He can jog. All right, good.
He can jog.
Can report. Saw him jog with me to get out of the way of the athletes doing athlete things.
Yeah. Was I faster than Lloyd Cushenberry? I'll let you guys guess. No, I wasn't. I'm the slowest person. I'm very, very slow. I cannot run fast.
Who's the fastest media member?
Oh, I don't want to guess.
It's obviously Easton.
I will leave you guys with this, just a fun my dad story. When I was growing up, my dad told me the only 2 rules for the woman I eventually married would be, number 1, she cannot be a Red Sox fan, and number 2, she has to be fast.
Why?
Because I'm not fast, and genetically,
you have to produce a semi-fast human. At some point.
If I married somebody less athletic than me, then our children would be doomed.
By the way, loved meeting the folks, Mr. and Mrs. Suss. Loved meeting them. Had a great time. Talked about Mets and Yankees. Talked about Vols and dogs. It was quite enjoyable to meet your parents. So they seem like lovely people. And thank you, Mama Suss, for listening to the show. Apparently. So thank you guys. It was lovely to meet both of you. Here's a question, because Ed says, is Baker better? Is Baker better than he gets credit for being? And I'm just curious, I remember when Tampa came to practice here when they had Brady, I think it was a couple years ago. And I just remember.
Hey, before you go on, Ed, are you talking about Daryl Baker or Baker Mayfield?
I assume Baker Mayfield is what I assume. So,
okay.
But what I was going to say
we'll talk about Baker Mayfield, but if you mean Darrell Baker, let us know in the comments.
Also been a very good camp. Darrell Baker's had a very good camp, better than I expected, and I think we talked about that on Monday. I remember seeing Vita Vea for the first time in person, and Paul already, Paul's giving me a hard time all the time for being like, oh, you've never been on a football field, Braden? It's like, no, I've been around athletes for 20 plus years, and there's still occasionally an athlete that is so large and so something that you're still just sort of like, man, I've been looking at football players professionally for 25 years, and that one is different. Derrick Henry is one of those where the first time I stood next to him when he was a sophomore at Alabama at the Sugar Bowl, when they beat Ohio State, when they lost to Ohio State, I was like, holy shit, that's a different type of person. Vita Vea always just totally, I just have that memory of standing next to him just being like, holy cow, dude, you are built like a different human being. Anybody that stood out to you from Tampa Bay that's just like totally different than you expected, or it just like a guy that stood out to you as, man, that dude is really, really good?
Mike Evans is still the best player on the field. Like, as much as I wanted to be like, oh, I bet he's lost a step or this, like, he was still so friggin' good to watch.
Is it like 11 straight 1,000-yard seasons or some shit like that?
He is just so... I look over, I'm watching the offense. There's a lull in the offense. I look over at the defense. I see Mike Evans make a one-handed catch, and I'm just like,
Mike Evans.
Yeah, that's Mike Evans. He's doing that.
11 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons to start his career, and for the last 5, he's had double-digit touchdowns. Just wild.
Now, it's always like 1,004 yards. He's really good at getting there and stopping, but
he's had 1,001, 1,006, and 1,004.
Yeah,
that's funny.
He's very, very good at getting to 4 digits and like not rounding down. But yeah, I think that as I watched Tampa, I would have really liked if Tristan Wirfs was out there. That would have been really fun to watch. But obviously, he's not practicing yet.
Yeah.
So Evans was the immediate standout for me.
And Ed Henry was talking about Darrell Baker, and yes, he does seem to always be around the football.
That's correct. I will say Darrell Baker, if he is your starting corner day one, not necessarily a great thing, but not necessarily a thing that's going to sink this franchise. So, like, you would rather a healthy and capable Snead be out there. And I'm not, like, changing any, like, duh. You paid $72 million or whatever it was for a healthy and capable Snead. But Darrell Baker, the interesting thing about him, and you can look at these stats, I don't want to misinterpret them, so please go fact check me, but I'm fairly certain the stat that I read about him last year was he ended up just almost never being thrown at. Like,
yep.
He was when he was thrown at, offenses had success, but they never threw at him.
Yep.
So it's like, if you throw at him once or twice a game, that's a cornerback doing his job by locking down the other 30 pass attempts.
Sure.
So that's good. Now, he needs to be more effective when the ball's in the air, and he needs to be a little bit better at being able to make plays and make stops when the ball does come his way. But if the job qualification of a cornerback is take away part of the field, he seems to do that pretty well. And that continues in Titans practice. I don't see him get thrown at very often.
Yeah,
Brownlee gets thrown at a lot more than Baker.
Interesting interaction between Ridley and Brownlee off the field at practice on Wednesday. They were kind of on the sideline and really, really working on sort of, and that was actually, it was Ridley working on Brownlee to help Brownlee with what the league is going to do to him.
Yeah.
Is the comment I think I overheard when they were chatting with each other and kind of working on some stuff on the sideline, like really like right in the middle of the media core. And I thought it was really interesting. He's just like, man, Ridley's like, this is what they're going to do to you, dude. They're going to do this. They're going to do this. And like the two of them, like Ridley has developed into something. And I think there's a whole group of these guys on this team. We got very pedantic about it last week. There's a bunch of guys that have sort of, I feel like they're growing into leadership roles or growing into a different version of themselves, and maybe it's just, and maybe it's all just fool's gold because it's training camp and that changes when the season starts. I don't know. But Ridley feels more comfortable and more confident and more at home and at peace with everything. And he felt it just felt like there was like a weird energy about the team last year. And certainly he was a part of it. All right. I just watched I just watched they just showed highlights on NFL Network about the practice yesterday. Emeka Egbuka beating people and scoring touchdowns. I forgot he was on the Bucs. I really like that player.
Much in the same way that Alec Iomanner looked absolutely great against Bucs corners I had never heard of.
Right.
Emeka Egbuka looked really, really good against Titans corners who aren't going to make the team.
Yeah, I think it was number 35. I was like, I don't think he's making the team.
That is not to say that it's not good that these guys are good at running routes. But like the Ridley play yesterday, the stutter step, which is one of the meanest things I've ever seen a receiver do to a cornerback, that was against a guy who doesn't even have a Wikipedia page.
Oh, man, you don't even have a Wikipedia page? That's brutal, dude.
Like,
okay, so should we talk fight real fast just because I forgot to mention it at the top of the show?
Might as well.
I will say, like, based on the reporting I've heard and the way I heard PK describing it, and I read about Jim wrote about it. It feels like it was much to do about nothing. Barton on Barton crime, which is hilarious, but no relation, of course. But Cam Ward did what I thought was interesting in that Cam Ward like sort of antagonized and diffused all at the same time, which is a very fine line to thread and walk. But it is something that a good leader who has a good relationship with other people generally would try to do. And I'm kind of impressed with that move, actually, to like take a fight. It's not really a fight. It's kind of like a little pushing and shoving and like turn it into something that's kind of funny and worth I think PK actually asked the question, right? That got him to I'd throw the ball at people in red or something like that.
Yeah. It was not a fight.
Right.
There were no dismissals or ejections. And if there was a punch thrown, it was more of a shove. And these guys were just really antsy to hit somebody that wasn't a teammate. And that happens at these joints.
Yeah. Happens at these joints.
Yeah. It happens, man.
Yeah.
I struggle to get all amped up about this sort of stuff. It was funny. I do too. It was funny that Cam did that.
That's what I'm saying. I think that's the more telling thing is that he just sort of like he took a thing that he could have. Some players would escalate, right? Some players would go in there and try to rile it up even more and make it more. And he sort of saw it as a moment to like just kind of have some fun with people. And I think that's telling. And we're getting into who these guys are of it all.
Yeah.
When we're trying to learn about Cam. So
when I think about football fights, I think about the first Egg Bowl I ever covered, where
that is not funny and chill.
Where I believe there were 138 personal fouls assessed in that game.
No,
because the referees had to just assess personal fouls to every player on both teams in order to make sure that nothing happened again. Because 2 personal fouls will get you an ejection.
Right.
I believe there were 5 total ejections. And I saw a quarterback sprint 40 yards to go protect a receiver from a safety, and helmets were swinging, and none of that was happening.
Was that the Elijah Moore dog pee game?
No, this was the year before
that. Okay.
This was the AJ versus Jonathan Abram fight.
Ooh.
If you recall that one.
Yeah. 2 NFL players for sure.
And so there was a lot of if I'm judging things based off of I cut my teeth in the Egg Bowl rivalry, this was not a fight.
That's exactly right. That's a good way to put it, because everything will pale in comparison to those fights. That is for sure. All right, last one here to let you go. But Sinkers Beverages, Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. I do want to hear about your travels, so we'll do that last. But I want to ask about Winston and Sweat in particular, not practicing. Sweat, he's out on the field practicing on Wednesday, and good to see him back on the field after missing, I think, the previous 4 or 5 practices in a row.
Yeah.
And the thought was, well, let's see what happens in joint practice. He does not practice, which means I imagine he is not practicing, or he's not going to play on Saturday. What do you make of that whole thing? How much does it matter? Callahan has said, I think on Wednesday, that everyone's going to play, and we're like, is everyone going to play? Number 98, maybe. So I'm just curious what you make of Sweat and Winston not practicing.
I asked Callahan yesterday for what it's worth. So which veterans are going to sit out? And he's like, maybe a couple. We'll decide that when we get there. Right. So I would, Simmons and Zeitler and some of these guys, I'd be surprised. Like, they don't need to play in the preseason.
Right.
With Sweat specifically, it'll become an issue to me if he's not practicing 2 weeks from now. I don't care if it's
after Atlanta.
Yeah, if it's a week or two out from the season and it's still lingering, it becomes an issue. It's if he misses time a month before the season starts. You want this dude to be at peak performance for week 1. You don't want him to be peak performance right now. Like there is a ramp up.
If they had 10 total practices, is that right? Ballpark? They had
10 or 11, yeah.
They had 2 this week, 5 and 6 days, so that's 7. And then they had the Saturday at Nissan, that's 8. And then 2 days before that, that's 9 or 10, I think. And I think he's missed like 6 of them. So that's not an issue. It doesn't bother me at all, to your point. But if all of a sudden we have 15 or 18 practices and he's missed 13 of them, then it might start to be a concern.
Sure. I will pass the buck on this one. If we're still talking about it 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks from now, it becomes a problem. But it's not a problem yet.
And Winston is just sort of management of returning from an injury and little professional rest there, or do we expect to see him on Saturday?
I probably wouldn't expect to see him, whether it is a new injury or whether it is a result of just soreness that comes from your first ramp up back from an ACL. Yeah. It's all connected. It's all the same thing. I would expect them to err on the side of caution with a guy who
looks pretty good.
Doesn't need to start immediately and looks pretty good.
Yeah, he's a long-term investment. There's no question about that. All right, tell me about your travels. Sinkers Beverages, Shotgun Willies. Tell me about your travels.
Oh, these aren't going to be like long stories. These are going to be one-liners essentially. But so I get off the plane at about 11 o'clock on Wednesday. Whenever I got here.
What time did your flight leave?
About 8:30.
Okay. So were you like the last media member to show up?
No, Tehran was because his flight got canceled.
That's a bummer.
He showed up with like 20 minutes left in practice yesterday.
Oh, damn. That sucks.
But yeah, Buck and I were on the same flight. We were. But I get to the rental car counter and I have the cool guy rental car officer and he looks me up and down and he goes, "Hey, you traveling alone?" And I go,
"What?"
And I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "You want a Camaro?" And I look up and down my 6'3" frame and I'm like, "Not really. No, I don't really want a Camaro." And the cool guy just looks at me and goes, "I'm going to give you a Camaro."
So he gave you a Camaro, even though you specifically asked for not a Camaro?
So I have been squeezing myself into a Camaro these last couple of days, and getting in and out of that car is truly the biggest aggravation in my life right now. It's just like yesterday I'm trying to pick up a pizza and I'm just like, "Oh, I got to get out of the car. I can't." No.
It sounds like a scene from a sitcom.
So
it's a person trying to get out of a car.
It's way too hard. I don't love it. And then I get to my hotel probably around midnight or so Wednesday, and there is just an exasperated woman behind the counter. Poor exasperated woman. And she looks at me and goes, "Are you like here for the night? Like you're good, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'd love to check into my room and go to sleep." And she's like, "Okay, so our mag strip is down and we can't make hotel keys. I can walk you to your room and let you in, but like I can't make a key for you, so you can't really come and go."
What?
And I'm like, "That's fine. It's midnight. I just want to go to sleep.
Just get me in the room."
And
first of all, okay, go ahead. There's more to the story.
Yeah, she's like, "Yeah, just pick up a key in the morning. You'll be good." And so I start to leave for practice yesterday, and I walk up. I'm like, "Hey, your mag strip good?" And they're like, "No, it's still broken. Just pick up your key whenever you get back from work today." And I was like, "Okay, but if I don't have a hotel room in a little bit, I'm going to be a little bit peeved." And it worked out. It's fine. I have a hotel key. But yeah, I had never had to be escorted to a hotel room before. It felt strange.
I am reminded of the great philosopher of our time, Jameis Winston, who once said, "People who grew up near water are different." And as someone who's both my parents they went to high school in Tampa. Both my grandparents, when I was a kid, had lived in Tampa their entire lives. I have an uncle who was almost literally a Florida man. Rest in peace, Uncle Frank. I got a lot of cousins that live in Florida. It's different. And the two interactions that you are explaining to me are the most Florida ways to rent a car and give a hotel room that I have ever heard in my life. It's different.
I cannot explain to you how much I do not give off the vibe of guy who wants to be driving a Camaro. The misinterpretation that has to go on there.
You travel alone? That's so funny. It's such a strange thing to ask, but I get what he was doing, I suppose.
It's a small car. You probably need space for other people.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is. I just even getting into that car in the parking garage, I was like, oh, this is not going to work.
Yeah.
So
before you even drove it one time, you're like, damn it. Forrest asked a good question. If you had gone to the lady at the front desk of the hotel and been like, ma'am, I drive a Camaro. I bet she would have gotten a hotel room.
I don't know, man. I just don't think they had the capabilities. Which is
clearly Camaros are very popular.
Which is not the strangest thing in the last year. When we went to Detroit last year for the Lions game, we show up at our first hotel that we tried to rent, and an exasperated man behind the counter was like, "We don't have computers." And we're like, "What do you mean?"
But then what's that right there in front of you?
And they're like, "All of our computers are broke." And I'm like, so is the internet down? And they're like, we don't know. Nothing's working. We can't check you into your hotel.
Hard to run a business these days without a computer.
Yeah.
Oh man, good stuff. All right. I can't wait to talk to you guys next week. PK on Monday and you on Thursday, and find out what the hell happened in Tampa on Saturday night. Enjoy it. Come on out to the Sinkers Beverage party, birthday party on Saturday night as well. Tomato Fest. It's gonna be a lot of fun. The kids will be out there. It's gonna be a blast. It's always a fun time. So come on out and celebrate Sinkers Beverages, and of course, make sure you go frequent Shotgun Willie's Barbecue for the best brisket in the city. Tennessean.com for good coverage of your Tennessee Titans, and obviously we'll be back next week with a lot of stuff to talk about. So the most important part of the show, Nick, the most important thing that you will ever do in media, give me a preseason score or a predicted score for a preseason football game.
So I'm super jealous that there was a tie yesterday. People who know me know I love ties in football. I root for every game to be a tie. You're such a
soccer fan. You're such a soccer fan.
I have loved ties much longer than I've loved soccer. So if I can get like a 21-21 tie,
yeah,
man.
No, that's not weird enough. It needs to be like 22.
16-16 tie.
16-16 sounds really nice. Sounds good. 29-29.
Yeah, I would love a tie. I would be so stoked by a tie, you guys.
Would it be you'd be like taking over the headline writer job? Don't let them write your headline. I'm writing the headline about this game.
No, I again, we can get off of this. So I'll give a real prediction. But I have a friend who, now that I cover the NFL, does me a favor of sending me tie watches and tie warnings whenever games are approaching possible ties. So while I'm working, he can be like, hey, watch New Orleans versus Buffalo. We got a tie warning. And it operates on like tornado watch, tornado warning based off of how much closer it gets.
Okay.
But yeah, no, like I love ties.
You go to your you get a warning, you go to your closet and you watch the rest of the game in your closet during a warning.
And if it's a watch, like okay. But actual score prediction, I would bet
I was kidding.
Tampa 24, Titans 20.
There you go. All right. Thank you, Nick. Safe travels back to Nashville. And of course, the Titans will head to Atlanta, and we'll have coverage from Paul and you next week. So stay tuned. And everybody else, have a great weekend. Sinkers Beverages, Shotgun Willie's Barbecue, Tennessean.com. We'll talk to you guys next week. Thanks for listening, everybody. Have a good one.